This shot was fully Ben's idea. He wanted to do like one of those freeze frame, an homage to the more old school style filmmaking. To me, it really referenced a French New Wave kind of aesthetic, and that you kind of have a Jules Jim moment between them there. What went into it? I mean, I think like from a technical perspective, because my role in that shot is the cinematographer, it really was the lighting design of those running sequences at the end. Those were so intricate and complicated. Not only are we having to like make things work for, there are like these tests for epilepsy and all of these things that you can't like have red, white flashing lights. So that was already challenging to work through. But finding that, working with the dimmer board op and working with the gaffer, our dimmer board op on this show does a ginormous job. He does so much work that defines the cinematography of the show as well. Also, I feel like I say, the show I feel is kind of like bigger than us in a way, and I think you almost don't want to say too much because you want people to see their own selves in it.
Jessica, thank you so much for sharing your time with us on the Movie Podcast. Once again, this is, I think, again, almost a record for the fastest we've ever had a returning guest on the show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we're just so delighted to be speaking with you, especially after episode 7, which we couldn't talk about too much last time we spoke. But seeing all of the love, again, we post a lot of videos from our interviews. I don't think we've ever had as much love on any videos as much as we had for the ones with you talking about episode 7 and
really?
your work.
Sweet. Okay.
What is it meant for you to see all the love and support and just admiration for your directorial debut and your work on Severance?
I mean, it's just encouragement to keep going. I mentioned that, it was something that wasn't that simple or easy for me to do. I was my own biggest block anyway in it. But seeing that just makes me want to keep going. So for me, it's been really moving and really beautiful, overwhelming also, because I'm just not used to it. I've been behind the camera my whole career. But yeah, I think it's time I step forward.
It's been cool seeing like people so excited to see what you do next. They're like, just give her a movie, like whatever she does, like people are excited to see whatever you do next.
We're working on that.
Yeah. So that's awesome. That's awesome to see.
I wanted to talk about the ending of episode 7 when Mark is in his library and police come to his door, and that the lighting on his face, and as Gemma, and they have that transition of Gemma going back to the elevator. Mark kind of falls back into the shadows and he realizes, he kind of like withers in. And it's almost like that subconscious of his personality disappearing because he's lost his wife. Can you tell me what went into making that beautiful shot?
Well, I see it as a sequence. First of all, the writer Mark Friedman from the beginning, always had this kind of like epic ending between them where there was cutting back and forth. And when I started breaking it down, I started working with him to, switch some things because I knew already like what the shots were going to be. And then we incorporated it into the script so that when we were shooting it, we could, really line it up perfectly because everything had to match. But the fact that I lived in the house where we were shooting, because it was the house I was renting, so the flashbacks were shot in that house, it allowed me to spend a lot of time on the location, obviously. So I was, listening to music. The song that plays at the end and then on the titles is from The Cold, because Teddy composed a song for the final sequence, but Teddy Shapiro, who does all of our scores. But I had a song in mind, which, is just on the credits. I was listening to that and walking through the space and thinking about it. And just even like the light moving through the space, the idea came when I ordered Chipotle DoorDash. I was alone in the house and the lights were off. And basically there's a roundabout in front of the house. And the car went around the roundabout, and I was standing somewhere where I could see that office, and I could see the light sweep through that sunroom and the office, and I was like, that's so beautiful. And originally the scene of him hearing the doorbell, he was in bed working on paper, so I asked Mark, the writer, to put it in the office so that I could do that lighting effect with the cops coming. So yeah, it was because like living it like that, I think allowed me to be able to see all these like magical moments and opportunities. And I got a lot of time to like think about these things. So that's just one part of it. And then, breaking it down with the rest of the sequence and really working with the writers.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, and I think you talk about music being such an important part of that episode as well. And I'm going to butcher the name, but Laval à Mille Temps.
Laval à Mille Temps.
That's it. You know, good thing you're speaking French. Yes,
French Canadian here.
That's why I didn't want to say it. I was going to just do AI. It plays such a key role in that episode's montage. And want to know what drew you to that specific song?
Originally, I was actually looking for a French Canadian song and I couldn't find the song. And I've always loved Jacques Brel, and I was, listening through all of his pieces, and there was another song I was interested in. But then this one, when I didn't know this song before, but I was like scouring Spotify trying to like find the thing, and I listened to this song and the rhythm of it and the feeling of it, because I knew I wanted Adam and Deechan to dance. A lot of these like flashback things weren't scripted, and we kind of like found things. Ben even came and did some fun second unit stuff with them outside. So it was just all these like found footage kind of things, and I just knew I wanted it to be a million images, and this song had the cadence for that. So it has found its way to us.
Love that, because it just keeps increasing in tempo, and it just gets more and more through that arc of the relationship. I love that.
Yeah, and we had to show, the challenge of this episode. One of the things I was very afraid of is, how do you show people 5 years of a couple? And you want to make it feel not forced. You want it to feel real. You want it to feel like life. But then you want to feel love and passion, and you also want to feel how a relationship evolves over 5 years and the things that can happen to us with everything that we're dealing with in our lives. And it's like, okay, well, you do that in like 10 scenes. It was a lot, and making sure that people loved Gemma was also really important. But then there's all of these sides to her, like she's a complicated human, just like Mark is. But yeah, there were quite a few challenges to tackle.
Speaking of challenges, we need to ask you about one of the craziest transitions we've ever seen in our life in this episode. One of the many throughout the entire series, but going from like the office to the ceiling through the cables and then coming out at the other end. How do you even begin to plan that, and then to see that you said that there was no CG in...
I have to okay, so there's a tiny bit of CG.
Okay.
And there's one great. So because when I was having that conversation, I know it like exploded on the internet, but the cables parts, it's all the cables are real. There's no like fake cables or anything like that. We're really going through cables, and we built this giant rig so that we had a probe lens on the camera, and the camera was basically booming down, and then these cables were twisting and rising, and we were moving through it. But the end, when we come out of the column, so there's this column that connects like MDR and basically this room. When we come out of the column, they built like a trap door that would like slide down so that when the camera pulled away, you couldn't see that we were inside the cables. But there's a tiny little CG grate. So I feel like I don't, because when I was talking about all the inside the cables.
Right.
And there's stitches.
Yeah.
But, not many. But doing that, it took us months of figuring it out. There were many moments of us staring at a camera. I remember it was Scott McGuire, the operator, who did a lot of these shots. Mike Guthrie, one of our ACs, and Cameron Sizemore also. We were all just looking at the camera and talking about probe lenses, and we brought so many lenses in to just look at them, measure them, be like, well, this is like 4 inches wide. Well, then that's So there was a lot of looking and talking, and we would do pre-production meetings just to talk about this shot, because all of this is happening while we're shooting other episodes. And I can't like leave set to go and prep or do these tests or anything. So we would have 15-minute pre-calls where we would bring set deck. So basically the people who were taking care of building the sets, construction, the grips, camera, visual effects, and anyone else, like the ADs would be there as well. And we would just be like, okay, where are we at on this part of the project? And everyone would kind of say what they had moved forward. We know what cables we want. Okay, have you dressed the inside with now we're working with the grips to do that. And it was a very interesting side project on the show.
Yeah, and just to think that at just the one of many multiple transitions that happen in the show that are just like, how do you pull this off? But when you see the final product, it really just makes it makes Severance feel like a show in its own league, really, in how it looks.
Well, we get to like work with the best, we get time to do what we do, and exploring. Like, I think it's very encouraged by Ben to, push the limits and to challenge ourselves to do things in camera. And I mean, I think that's where I excel as a cinematographer and now as a director, because I think they're kind of like, they go together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel it's because we get the time to do it that we can be on that level.
And, time always feels like a major theme in Severance, and especially in episode 7, you lean so much more into it with the music and the structure of the story. How do you see time functioning as a storytelling device?
Well, first of all, I don't believe in time as I think we all have our own perspective on time. Like, your experience with time is your own and will only be yours, and mine is my own. I view it as kind of like something that we use to define something that we don't quite understand because it's unquantifiable or explainable with language. I do believe everything's happening all at once, that it's like, I don't think there's like one linear structure. And one thing that's very interesting about this episode is originally there's 3 timelines. There's the timeline of Gemma on the testing floor, the timeline of the flashbacks, and then Mark's timeline with his sister Devin, right? And these 3 moments, I tried very hard to try and line it up because I'm a very like square person, and I was trying to find like with my Post-its in my office, okay, so scene, this is happening at the same time. And you have to also put it in the entire season. Like, where is this within our timeline? And it never quite fit. And there was a part of me at one point that just let it go. And I was like, well, I don't think I can control time or organize time. Like, the point of this episode is that you're always reliving these traumatic or these experiences within you. So you can be, at a coffee shop with your friend having a conversation about something, but there's something inside of you that's like working. And I feel that that's what's happening this whole time, and that's why they're like interwoven.
Love that. That's such a unique way of saying it. I never thought about time is so specific to everybody else. It's just always like, yeah, well, you go from point A to point B, but I like that you're giving it so much more depth and layer to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's defined by space. You could see time as like a time and space thing. I feel like that's the easiest way to view it. But at one point, I think there's another level where you can extract yourself from time. And that's where we connect as humans.
Very Christopher Nolan.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Interstellar. Now, Severance has accumulated a huge fandom. And like every week after every episode, I'm on Reddit looking at what does this mean, or fan theories of what they think. What are your favorite fan theories, if any, if you've seen anything?
I've come across a couple. They were so out there that I was a little mind blown by it. I don't know that I have a specific one. I tend to try. I'm so afraid of seeing what people say that I don't go there often, to be perfectly honest. I think they see things that we don't even know sometimes that are in the episodes that are coincidences. I think when I see those things, that's when it blows my mind the most, when we didn't even know about it. And we will talk about it after. Like, someone will come up and say, oh my gosh, did you know that they found this in this shot? What? We didn't even know, That's kind of amazing. I feel like this show is made by a much stronger force than us. Like, I think it just like found us, found Ben, and it found Dan. And it was like, okay, you guys are good people to be making this. Like, you guys are going to take it across the finish line. And then obviously me and all the other directors and all the players. Yeah, there's something driving us that we don't even understand.
Jessica, you told us your favorite shot, or one of your favorite shots, was the final sequence in episode 10. Mm-hmm. And we see Mark and Heliar running down the corridor. They're just bathed in red light while the windmills of your mind is playing. What went into that shot, and why was that something that meant a lot to you in that moment?
This shot was fully Ben's idea. He wanted to do like one of those freeze frame, an homage to the more old school style filmmaking. To me, it really referenced a French New Wave kind of aesthetic, and that you kind of have a Jules Jim moment between them there. What went into it? I mean, I think like from a technical perspective, because my role in that shot is the cinematographer, it really was the lighting design of those running sequences at the end. Those were so intricate and complicated. Not only are we having to like make things work for, there are like these tests for epilepsy and all of these things that you can't like have red, white flashing. So that was already challenging to work through. But finding that, working with the dimmer board op and working with the gaffer, our dimmer board op on this show does a ginormous job. He does so much work that defines the cinematography of the show as well. But all of that, I think, went into it. And the post work as well on it was pretty laborious. So I thought there's like so many layers to it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And again, we're just so grateful to speak to you again so soon. We cannot wait to see what you work on again and in the future, Jessica. So just thank you so much again for all of us. And we just love this show, and we're just so happy that the full season is out there. And we're gonna just keep reading those theories now as we wait to see what comes next. Yeah, I'd get your
also, I feel like I said, the show I feel is kind of like bigger than us in a way, and I think you almost don't want to say too much because you want people to see their own selves in it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.